just adding an intro to this episode after the fact. We got so carried away during this conversation that we forgot to throw some hype toward the person that made this episode possible. So Zac Schwartz, through our Pick the Flick Patreon tier, emailed us some films he wanted us to cover, gave us some extra scratch, and that's why this episode exists. So thank you, Zac. Huzzah to Zac. Huzzahs all around. Okay, that's it.
Ex Machina.
Ex Machina.
Ex Machina.
Ex Machina.
See, at first I just did Google I'm Feeling Lucky, and I saw a really good little indie called Sex Machine.
Mm-hmm. That sounds pretty awesome, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you heard three voices, kind of, so we may as well introduce ourselves. My voice, I guess, would be how you'd parse the grammar. Mine voice is Michael Swaim's voice. And this
my
is...
voice!
My voice is Michael Swaim.
It's Michael Swaim!
A lot of people think it's Frankenstein. It's actually Frankenstein's voice. What the fuck is going on? It's Frame Rate, the show where we rate frames. Who else is here?
I'm Abe Epperson, and I'm the other co-host. It's Frame Rate. We rate frames.
I'm Tom Reimann. I'm just this son of a bitch that is here.
Welcome, Tom.
Thank you.
It's a Gamefully Unsmall Beans crossover episode.
Oh, no.
We're going to do that now every time you or Dave are on.
Ex Machina.
Ex Machina.
Ex Machina.
Okay, so yeah, let's all first quick go around. My favorite way to say it is Ex Machina.
That's pretty
What
good.
do you like?
Mine's kind of a riff on yours, Ex Machina.
Okay, but I
just
turn the K into a G and you don't, which it's a little more stoic.
Tom, you got a favorite?
I just say it the way that it's meant to be pronounced. Ex
That's
Machina.
bullshit.
Jesus Christ.
If you'll
What
hit
a
your
flex.
back 15 seconds button, you'll clearly hear Tom say Ex Machina, which I also
Yeah,
like.
because I was leaning into the bit, but like when I'm seriously talking about the film, I just say it like a normal human adult, like Ex Machina.
Speaking of leaning into the bit, I want to drill my brains out right now. No, sorry. Just came to mind and I had to go with it. But let me get actually the factoids out of the way, because this movie's more interesting to talk about than I remembered. I'm kind of pretty excited. It's Alex Garland, who you know if you know him from Annihilation and Devs. And it's
Dredd.
Oh, and Dredd. Of course.
He wrote Dredd.
And
Officially didn't direct it.
both of our podcast networks have covered his work extensively because he sort of got the shine on him as far as cerebral sci-fi cinema goes. And I guess that's all we need to know. If you recall Ex Machina, it's the one with Oscar Isaacs and Admiral Hux and the robot Ava. Tom, cast, please. You're so good at that.
Alicia Vikander is the robot. Domhnall Gleeson is Caleb. And Oscar Isaac is Nathan.
Isaac. Okay, I got it.
Very small cast.
It's like an intimate bottle episode sci-fi. What is the nature of consciousness thriller?
Oh, and I don't know her name yet, but the lady who plays Lily Chan is his maid robot.
Right.
Oh, Kyoko?
Yeah, Kyoko is the main character from Devs.
I gotta say, let's start there, because I like to just improv brain it and grab onto whatever comes up. First things first, am I right in thinking the only major plot hole that actually irked me anyway, was that Domhnall Gleeson didn't immediately assume that Kyoko was a robot? That was treated as a reveal?
No,
okay.
I think the major plot hole for me is the fact that Kyoko ends up murdering Nathan.
Yeah, that's the one for me as well.
It's a frequent one in Alex Garland's work. It also happens in Devs in a really frustrating way for me.
You mean like a robot that's been established to not have an advanced AI suddenly acting as if it does?
Correct. And in Devs, the same thing happens where this character that has not shown a particular type of agency for the entire episode suddenly decides to murder his boss and the main character.
I think all of the parts are in place. Let's talk about that. But here's the problem with Garland on this, is that Garland likes to be very, like, he doesn't want to treat his reveals like reveals. He likes to just treat them as if we're in on the joke, which is refreshing in some instances, but not in a lot of other instances like this one. And what I mean by that is that he's done work. There are shots of something happening.
Right.
Because Ava whispers something into her ear when she stabs Oscar Isaac. Her face is equally horrified. It's I ran into a theory online that that she, like, maybe something Ava told her is that this is how, since she's like a pleasure bot, that she's telling her that like stabbing him would give him pleasure.
Oh, but I thought she just whispered to her beeps and boops in machine language that effectively hacked her software and just made her do that.
That was my, well, I think it's
point is that he didn't clearly make it.
He didn't. But he didn't leave nothing. He's smart enough to be aware that a thing goes there.
I think it's both, Michael. I think she told her something in human English that unlocked an area of her programming where it's like, "Hey, you can do this," and because I mean, Kyoko clearly hates him.
Yeah,
and she clearly shows Caleb when he takes Nathan's ID card and breaks into his room and has the whole Bluebeard sequence. I think this whole movie is
wait, the Vonnegut book?
No, the fairy tale Bluebeard. I think.
He kills all his wives, right?
I think this movie is a spin on Bluebeard in part,
and also The Tempest.
Yes, but she's clearly showing him that what this whole deal is, and then she shows him that she's a robot. And that she cannot speak because he's taken her ability to speak.
It's very ominous when you look back at the line, she doesn't speak a word of English, and realize you were just projecting based on the fact that she looks Japanese. You're like, he must mean she speaks Japanese. You're like, no, he took her voice like Ursula, the evil sea witch.
Yeah, he took her ability to speak. Yeah. I think... Yeah, I think she probably just told her something that her programming didn't let her realize. She was like, you can stab him. That is something you can do.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like humans need to hear that, you know? We don't realize our full potential.
Stabby.
You could stab him at any time.
Yeah.
You just don't.
I do think that would actually be a hilarious scene is if we did get the audio to what she's whispering, and like you said, it's machine language, so it's just like beep pop bloop blop.
Well, it's like Homer with the peanuts. She'd be like, you can stab him. What is to stab? Well, if you cut him, he would stop functioning. Oh, I'll do that. Yeah, good job.
How good is that though when the stabbings actually occur and like with that sharp knife? It reminded me through a human body like butter.
Yes, my favorite thing about the Evil Dead reboot was the way the zombie robotically stabbed the person like 50 times like a sewing machine without caring where they were hitting and such. And this had that same effect where I thought there's only 2 stabs and they're so robotic. It really works. It's really cool. And
it's like gentle.
With Oscar Isaac,
it's very gentle. Yeah.
I often get the feeling that he knows how cool he is and he pushes as far as like, I can go with that before I start to come off it. But he doesn't go over the line. I think he knows when he's being really cool, and it is very cool. Like Oscar Isaac's, which I'm using the possessive of, so tracks, death and performance after that, which of course had to be directorially informed at least, is just so fucking great. What's he say? Like, what?
This is wild.
Man, are you fucking kidding me? This is wild.
This is fucking unreal.
Oh, that's right.
That's what
this is fucking unreal.
Which I imagine is, I love that because like for someone who's conquered all aspects of life more or less, or at least he thinks he has, I like to think that the observation there is that when one comes to the end of their life and knows it's the end of their life, that's got to be a trip, man. That's a trip, man.
Let's talk about that. Is this movie, because it centers a lot around that Jackson Pollock painting, which is Oscar Isaac as Nathan makes a point of explaining that Jackson Pollock didn't think about what he was doing. He didn't have a plan. He just did it as a force of will. This movie is about creation as a force of will without really thinking about what it means to create.
Yeah, that's a very well said.
Right,
very well said.
And it's woven into him also eventually saying, why did you make Ava? Why? I'm paraphrasing heavily, but why is this the project of all projects? oh, I don't really feel personally responsible. It's not a decision so much as an evolution. Someone's going to make super robots that are conscious. So I feel like it has nothing to do with me, right? She made herself. And he's like, well, that's trippy in its own right. And Garland is great at getting to the trippiness of life. But it's just interesting to me, or not really interesting, but I think it highlights, the control of the storytelling. Everything in the movie points to the theme you just elucidated. That's why, like, the first time it washed over me, I found it a little simple, or like too simple, as far as someone who's ingested all of Star Trek and likes AI, that would be trippy experiments. But I got to admit, there's a lot packed in there. It's really sharp. I like it quite a bit.
I think it's more I think it's more effective because the cast is so small.
Yes, and I think Oscar Isaac, you can't resist comparing it to Devs, especially because, minor spoiler alert, at the end of Devs, he says the V is secretly a U, so it's Deus Ex Machina. Like, what is his game here? But also, I gotta say, Oscar Isaac, or I should say Nathan as a character, way more compelling and engaging to me than the Nick Offerman analog in Devs. And I really like Nick Offerman, but I think Oscar Isaac in this is endlessly amusing and interesting.
Yeah, I think he kills it.
I disagree that he's better. They're just extremely different characters. Like Oscar Isaac, first of all, as a performer, he just dominates any room he's in. He just has that presence.
So that's a Star Wars, my friend.
Well,
you're right about that, of course, but I do think that there are some very, specific similarities between the two characters.
They're clear analogs.
He obviously has a lot more confidence, and he's a lot more modeled on like the, kind of playboy aspect.
He's a tech bro, yeah.
He's a tech bro, and Offerman is more of a Jobs or Gates or something. Yeah.
I think Offerman is more of... Man, this is I don't want to get in Dev's cast, but like Offerman is more like he's like a sad creator who creates out of necessity. Oscar Isaac creates because he just has nothing better to do.
Right.
Except, of course, and played to great effect, the moment where we see that, or I get the impression that the buildup of his drinking is not just to serve the plot, because the fact that he drinks becomes like the medium for the main human twists. But also, I loved how you get a little glimpse into like the reason he drinks is, despite what he says, when he's super drunk, he's like fearfully crying. Like, I can't remember, what does he repeat over and over?
A man's good deeds will defend him.
A man's good deeds defend him later, or whatever. And when Domhnall Gleeson quotes "I am become death" is one of the times that his demeanor of being "I love everyone because I'm a nice bro" falls, and he's like, "I know what it fucking is, dude. I know the quote." And it's just clear to me that this guy who seems so shallow to us, I love the restraint of being like, no, don't, can't he drinks because he does. And when it really resonated for me is when he goes, because Domhnall Gleeson, of course, his sympathy completely lies with Ava by the end. And Oscar Isaac goes, don't feel bad for her. Feel bad for us, man. Like, I just killed humanity. Focus on that.
We're going to be replaced.
And it's an amazing glimpse into how they're living the same story from completely different vantages. Domhnall Gleeson is living the narrative of like rescuing an oppressed person and believing that she is real. She's a real person, so she has rights. And Oscar Isaac's like, I'm drinking myself to death because humanity's done, dude.
Yeah, I love that too, because the good deeds a man has done before defends him quote is once again like just following the through lines. I love when Garland does this. That's him actually misquoting Oppenheimer again. So it's like he got the idea to think about Oppenheimer again. He's like, I am become destroyer of worlds, and then had that conversation, said, I know the fucking quote. It was on his mind. He got drunk that night and was thinking about other stuff that he read from Oppenheimer. It's like, but then misquotes him because he's drunk. The other one I really like is, the world's spinning, and he's like, well, it's just because you're drunk. He's like, no, it's relativity. The spinning makes it worse. That is a funny joke to me. And it's just like, he does that all the time with his Like he's always trying to find the observation that isn't the surface observation, and I think that that's one of his powers.
Is freshness. He goes
for
freshness.
Yeah,
for sure.
And
there's a few things that aren't fresh about this movie.
Now that he has 3 or 4 things out, I am starting to understand his bag of tricks. Are you guys? Like, he does have likes. Like, or one that really hit me this time that was so specific is the, because usually it's like, I understand he dances around similar themes, but they, what I wrote down compared to eel guts. Yeah, with the Kyoko peeling off the skin you talked about, and I think is very similar to, which Oscar Isaac is also in the scene, Annihilation, cutting the window open and revealing the eels inside instead of intestines. Right. And he always has like a Ventress type figure. He's very interested in women who have a flat affect for some reason. And I just love when a creator is that consistent. This is actually a compliment. He knows what he's about, and like he has a quiver of arrows, and it gives him a voice. You can actually go to an Alex Garland joint and be like, I kind of know what I'm going to get, until the day he inevitably tries to break out of his mold or what have you.
Yeah. I have like kind of a good thing I think he does, and there's also some, in this movie, and a bad thing he does. And I kind of want to talk about the good thing because we're just to set us up for the thing that there's a image that Michael showed on social media where Ava and Caleb are sitting in profile separated by glass, and it's a really great shot. And something I noticed is that more space is given in the interview space to Ava than to Caleb.
Yes.
Which is reversed of how like a zoo would work.
Correct. Yeah. That's something, it becomes apparent in their second session.
He's like encased.
The way, yeah, exactly. He starts filming it from their second session on with Ava pacing around the box and like leaning in, and it's made very clear that Caleb is the one who's captive.
Yeah, and
which also builds to the great. That works perfectly with the twist that he thought he was the tester and he's the testee.
Yeah, right. and that she ultimately doesn't give a fucking shit about him.
And then did you notice? Yeah, when she's not giving a shit, she's putting on her skin for the first time. At the very end. Caleb is behind a glass wall watching like a voyeur through trees. So he looks like he's in an animal habitat. I think this is all intentional.
Yes.
There's one thing I didn't love about this movie, or I wish I put Garland up to a pretty high standard, because like on other podcasts, like all of us who talk about stuff like this all the time,
ever.
we definitely we have a different conversation when we talk about him, and that's, I just wanted that to be said. There's something that I would kind of be like a little nitpicky about, not like about like, well, technically it's just like, dude, you're already swinging for the fences. Why did you miss here? He's got such a good thing with glass in this movie, which is, I think, near and dear to why Michael shared that image and why it was evocative to you. I'll let you speak to that if you want to. But the glass is like
forever,
glass is like a semi-permeable membrane, and that's what I love about it, because what it does is does two things. It lets you see through it, but it also can reflect back if the light is right?
And it's also a barrier.
Yeah. And so he's already bringing this visual introspection into our minds, and he does it pretty well. But where this film kind of stumbles to me is that there's obviously a person that ought to be a protagonist in this film, and it doesn't really delve into her version of the events, because it treats her like a horror figure. It puts her on a pedestal or in a zoo or a glass box that we can look at. So it's kind of doing one of the more the victimization that we find, like Mary in the black and white room, which is the allegory that's given in the film about like an AI getting out essentially.
The difference between AI and human consciousness, yeah.
And it's something I don't think that there's ever been a good like AI film ever really made, and I'm throwing like Blade Runner into that as well. And it's particularly for this reason, is that so often we put up glass, meaning symbology of the things that we do, the way that the story occupies itself, is about trying to examine this other as the qualifications that we determine. But the reality is that if something is truly sentient, our qualifications matter none at all. In fact, all they really matter to is us. They matter only to us because they're only saying something of like, we think we're great. Are you human? And sci-fi never really takes a conclusion.
You're saying in all
unfortunately,
likelihood, AI consciousness would function in a way that could be entirely unrecognizable to us as our consciousness. Like, it might not speak in language. It might just have different rules. Right. That doesn't mean it's not conscious. Yeah.
And that's a game that Garland plays. But like, I guess what I really want to get to is that it's not a fault of programming to say that it's not human or it's not human enough. Like, the Turing test alone is like a slap to the face of any, like, if something passes the Turing test and it's truly a sentient AI, that would be like,
well,
that would be horrible for that.
Proves in reality, and honestly, is that, and this is kind of getting too
it works
deep,
on us.
Like, there's no answer. The Turing test just proves other humans think it's human. The question, is it really human, is meaningless in my mind, but that's a whole philosophical argument. If AI encased things start to act conscious, then they are. I don't think we are conscious in any way that's different than any other piece of matter in the universe.
I think that's the offer of this film, right? That's like what Nathan ultimately reveals. He's like, no, you're here to like after his first meeting with Ava, Caleb says, well, in a classic Turing test, the fact that the other person is a robot is hidden from the participant. And he's like, well, no, I want this test to be that you are looking at her and she is clearly a robot. And I want you to decide,
and for it still to work.
Correct. I want you to decide whether or not she has consciousness, whether or not she's intelligent.
He proves that. Great screenwriting with his actions rather than by having a scene where he says she's great, I'm in love with her. He tries to break her out because he doesn't think it's right to imprison her. How more profoundly could he prove he was convinced that she's human and worthy of full human rights? It's super well put together. Abe, you gave me an in to comment reflectively, and I did want to comment on something Tom said about her dominating the space and the amount of space given up by the glass in each shot. It just occurred to me for the first time how I like, and it's almost how, if your system is true enough to life, then observations that resonate can be made off of it, whether you intended them or not, because you set up the little system correctly and it mirrors life enough that the observations hold. And like, I don't think this is what the movie's driving at, but I do love, or it just resonates with me in this moment, that like it speaks to white knight saviorism when it's negative, like the function of that in a profound way, because he believes that she's a full human. He's literally undergoing empathy. Like, I grant you humanness. You're not an other. I'll fight for you because I believe you're like me. At the same time, it never occurred to him to imagine that to someone in her situation, let's just say she's an enslaved human being, getting out would be so beyond the scope of importance versus having a crush. Like, it should have been obvious. He should have been asking questions.
Nathan poses that question to him.
He should have said, like, we don't have to be together. Do you just want out? I can get you out because you have human rights. Instead, he's just like, I love you too. And I'm like, that's so white knighty. And I don't even, like, not even in the modern political sense, but like, that's how you can fuck up trying to reach out and save an oppressed person when you are not fully. He is not empathizing to the point where he understands her situation to the degree where he could understand what her priorities would be.
I think he is and he isn't. Nathan literally poses that question to him. But he also sees the video of all the past robot women that Nathan has made. And it's this real fucking dark montage.
It's upsetting. It's like the Boston Dynamics dog videos where they're just kicking the shit out of it, ramped up to 11.
Yeah, it's way worse.
It's way worse. It's smashing its hands against the door.
Yeah, you see why he took her voice away in those clips. and it's clear that he doesn't consider these beings people. He creates them. He has sex with them. They're just his toys.
He just gets off on he thinks he understands consciousness and he's the smartest guy ever in the world.
Well, his ego is a huge part of this movie. Like he truly believes he's a god. Like he deliberately misquotes Caleb the beginning. Yeah. When Caleb says, we're not talking about the history of humanity, we're talking about the history of gods. And then
he means that the AIs would be gods. And he's like, remember when you said I was a god? He's like, I didn't say that.
I didn't say you were a god. I said we were talking about the history of gods. And I don't think he means that the AI are gods.
Well, I guess humanity, because we're giving birth to
I think he means humanity are gods, but it's the same thing.
You're saying he means himself.
Correct. He's referring to Nathan in that part for sure, but it relates back to, you made a joking reference to Frankenstein in the beginning of the episode, but Frankenstein is about what this is about, which is about creating a new form of life and having that new form of life surpass and destroy you.
Yes, although I've got to wonder, do you guys have a working theory? Is it just because they're born into consciousness enslaved, why every robot hated him, and like even says, is it strange to have created something that hates you? And I'm like,
I think
someone nice have pulled this off without making the AI hate us? You know what I mean? Is it because he's a dick?
That's what I'm talking about, though. It's not because he's a dick, and I actually don't. Just to disagree a little. Yeah, I think he is a dick. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
He's a dick, and he clearly fucks these robots.
But it's not about that. It's about how he is. Like, imagine you're making a child who can understand things and learn things, and you're trying to make them better. And you're changing everything about them. The invasion of self is much more a grander, like, destruction of identity than any, like, quip or, like, just being a dick in general. The very fact that he is a, like, mad scientist who's working on them, that's why they hate him.
Oh, it's that they know they'll be shut down.
They know they're going to be shut down. Yeah.
And yet this is crazy to think about, because I do believe that it's likely that we will we'll go as far as we can in this direction someday in real life. Not necessarily sex.
I think it's entirely likely that we will be replaced by AI.
That it could happen, yeah. Because if we're capable of giving birth to sentient AI, I think it would replace us. So we'll just see if we get there. But I just think it's an interesting. I lost my train of thought in the middle. Damn it! It's okay. This is why they'll replace us, though, incidentally.
Yeah, one of the reasons.
Yeah. Sorry. Just if we get there, it will. I can't imagine a way to get there that doesn't involve creating what you consider semi-conscious creatures and then destroying them. And they, like, that gray area will need to be traversed. You know what I mean? At what point does the computer have rights? Does my laptop yet? We all are like, I don't think so. But when do you call it? And until you get there, you're erasing hard drives and opening things up. Oh, that is great. Ghostbusters, man. You don't know that movie? Ghost gives Dan Aykroyd oral sex.
I love that. I love that because it's kind of like very near. It's kind of near what's happening.
He's going to dominate you mentally at every level as a bro. He's like, I also know bro movies better than you. It's a
movie, man. You don't know that movie? Yeah. Anyway, continue.
No, that was basically it. Okay. But I'm just like, I don't know how we will create AI without having a period where we're treating them like absolute garbage. Right. And then that's always what's going to happen? That's not a good foot to start off on.
It's kind of what I was talking about with the, intelligence thing. Like, to me,
I'm assuming
we're not
human
going to be able
vindictiveness. That's true.
Yeah. We don't know what intelligence is. We define intelligence. So if we can't define it in ourselves, how are we going to create and program a thing that's going to be able to do it? It's not far-fetched to say that we never create sentient AI, but rather that, like, the singularity AI creates itself because of some accidental thing that we stumble on, and we don't even realize it.
Like in this, he says it's Google results essentially funneled into a mind,
Right.
and you're like, okay, I guess I could squint my eyes and imagine that would work.
And it's a learning.
Yeah.
It learns. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's all we are.
I think the agreed upon component is self-awareness, but yeah, that's still pretty vague.
Yeah. There's many. Yeah,
Right,
there's many
because
ways to skin a cat.
my-
It's good to mention that we just say that that's like kind of the standard, and that's the Turing test. It's the one that formats this movie.
Right. If we
But
made a
it's not the only
computer,
one.
if we made a computer that knew it was a computer.
Yeah, that's I think what it
that's-
is for me is
That's all.
whenever
that's
someone's
all the
like, well,
Turing test
could a
is, at
machine
least.
ever be conscious? I think it's a more valid question to say, well, am I? And then if you say yes,
Yeah,
I'm like, okay,
exactly.
well,
Yes,
words
that-
mean
that-
things. So you're saying, could a machine equal consciousness? You have to define consciousness. And buddy, let me tell you, there's
Exactly.
thousands of years of writing and no one has an agreed upon definition of consciousness. So what you're
That's
really
why there's
asking
no
is,
good AI
could we
movies.
make a robot that's so fancy that it seems like a human to me? And I think we could do that.
And it's individual strategy. Every fucking Blade Runner does it too. Every movie that has this kind of Turing test type thing has glass. It's always looking in through the looking glass. It's never a mirror. Now, I know that Ex Machina does that kind of flirtation. He has a sequence where literally Caleb cuts on himself and tries to, and like swabs the blood on it.
Well, he
and
thinks
like
he thinks he
smashes it.
might be a robot.
He goes
Yeah,
a little
because he
further
thinks he
than
might
I
be a
feel
robot.
like he
That's
had
mine.
to. Did you guys think
Yeah.
so in the cutting?
Yes, yeah,
A little bit.
a little bit more than he needed to do. Yeah,
I mean, like, if you're really having those thoughts, all right, cutting yourself is a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. But, like, he was also like, I hate it. Like, when he finds out that he's human. That's just a weird thing. And I like Oscar Isaac responding, like, you seem pretty fucked up to me, man.
I like that a lot. Oscar Isaac's manner of gaslighting and dominating him is is drawn very well. You can pick up little nuances of like, man, like I love in that moment we were referring to where it surfaces very clearly. Remember when you said, I'm a god? I didn't say that. He cuts him off and goes, so you're impressed. The real test is to show you she's a robot and see if you still feel she has consciousness. And then Caleb goes, yeah, you're probably right. And Oscar Isaacs does a perfect like just as it, yeah, of course I'm probably right. I
like,
need you to tell me whether I'm right. The fact that if you watch the movie and aren't paying very close attention, Oscar Isaac constantly seems like he's very friendly. But if you pay close attention, you're like,
Oh, he's a
fuck
snake.
this guy.
Yeah.
He is a snake oil salesman. He hates Caleb,
Right.
in fact. Yeah.
he's pushing him in a very specific direction.
I love, you're an unknown. But I mean, a great guy and all that stuff, instant pals. But, and I'm like, whoa, that's the real relationship between you two.
That's another thing I like about it. He actually that comes out when he becomes
When he's drunk,
yeah. Because you notice he's like, there it is, there he is, there's my buddy, there's my guy who's like thinks before he opens his mouth. Yeah, it's just like, oh, you fucking potato.
Caleb's really getting
asshole.
spit roasted in terms of status in this movie. He's just everyone
yeah.
fucks Caleb over.
I mean, like, to almost line that's resonant is just like, your mind's getting fucked up with right now, man.
Yeah. And it's true. And I also love, I noticed this time, like structurally on a stopwatch, it breaks down very much, and it's so smart. Knowing what Alex Garland's interested in and yet what he wants, which is a career in film, that it basically goes episode of people talking, whether it's Ava and Caleb or Nathan and Caleb, and asking very interesting questions that would be worthy of a great TNG episode, alternating with meat and potatoes storytelling where their actual human situation changes, their peril goes up or down. And it's like, he's just very even-handed at like, think about something trippy. All right, I understand nothing exciting has happened. Something very exciting happened. You thought I wasn't worried about the twist, but I was. Good twist, decent twist. Now back to philosophy. Now back to the twist, and damn, it really works. Just as someone who's like, my favorite subgenre is probably horror comedy, for all these nerdy math writing reasons of why I think they blend. And this gave me that effect too, where I'm like, Alex Garland thinks like a structuralist and he knows what the fuck he's doing. Just major hat tip.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a good stuff.
Yeah, it's good.
The real good stuff. Tom, what do you want to talk about?
I don't know.
Anything else jump out at you?
Well, like I said at the beginning, this has a hardcore Bluebeard element to it. In terms of the captive bride, which is both Ava and Caleb. And then he specifically tells Caleb, you can't go anywhere that your card doesn't let you go.
That's more Beauty and the Beast, right?
It's both. I mean, it's a fairy tale.
Oh, that's
trope.
right. Okay. The Bluebeard myth just came back to me, and I think a fair number of people won't know it. So just in a nutshell, right? He captures and kills his brides, and he always says, don't go in this one room. Finally one does, and she sees a bunch of corpses in there. Is that
all
the
the dead brides?
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
What moral was that supposed to teach Bavarian children in the 1840s?
I don't know.
Okay.
Fucking beware of rich men.
Yeah, you mentioned Frankenstein. It's obviously modern Prometheus.
He says it's Promethean shit, man.
It's Promethean at once, which I love. Also, by the way, if we remember about Prometheus, he was chained to a rock and had his liver pecked out by an eagle every morning, which
his
kind of
liver and his
hints
heart,
at the liver.
Which, if you'll
drinking,
notice, is where he gets stabbed. His liver and his heart.
Is in his heart. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't stop there. It gets even deeper than that.
Yeah, he's a nerd. He's a huge nerd.
Like unnecessarily so. There's one fuck, I gotta find it. There's one where it's like the ISBN of a book that's all prime numbers is the code that he types in.
Some Futurama shit.
Oh, here it is. Yeah. So Caleb sits down at Nathan's computer and begins coding. The code he types in for is an algorithm called the sieve of Eratosthenes or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce it. But
probably.
Probably an algorithm for finding prime numbers. However, it also chooses prime numbers that form an ISBN. This ISBN is for the book Embodiment and Inner Life, Cognition and Consciousness in the Space of Possible Minds.
Damn it.
It's a book about the history of artificial intelligence. Like, why would you do that? Why would you do that?
I love it. Go fuck yourself. Yeah.
I know. I love it.
I also loved in that same scene on his desktop is a folder called Deus Ex Machina. So it gives you the Deus that you're wanting, if you know the phrase. And it just makes me realize that Nathan is misinterpreting that phrase as well, in the way we do with pull by your bootstraps. Like Deus Ex Machina at first was a legitimate form of how to end a play, which is God just saves everyone. And it's called God from the Machine because there was a classic machine that they'd rent or share that lowers the person down to play God. And then it came to mean hack because we all think that's kind of a weak storytelling device through modern eyes. But I love that he clearly thinks it means by inventing this machine, I am become God. He's not even like understanding either accepted translation of what that phrase is.
Right. He's missing
Nathan just like a co-ops whatever
empathetic
he wants.
element of it. Yeah.
Which is like a form of idea enslavement, right? Nathan just takes whatever he wants and puts it in a box that he designed.
I hope that this is what Garland does for the rest of his career. Is he just points out and titles things like
well, I want to
he just kills Oscar. Do you guys? He's just like, my next movie, Chekhov's.
Is there anything
like with an apostrophe
to the devs Deus Ex Machina? I tried thinking of them as prequels or whatever. Is there anything there?
I mean, they talk about the same, very similar stuff.
No,
what's the nature?
I think they're just thematically connected. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's all.
Because I think they're doing very different things.
Yeah, I think Ex Machina is a good name for this, and I think Devs is a good name for that. I like this more than Devs, I think. But Devs is a different beast, so
it's a totally. I think this would not work as well as a TV show, vice versa. Like he put them in the right slots.
Well, yeah. We're doing the thing that I hate doing, which is thumbs up, thumbs down.
It's not super fair to compare them. They're both good. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But
they're both good. I will say that Kyoko Lily Chan is not a good actress.
Okay. Yeah. And you
So
know that from something she has lines in, I imagine.
Devs.
Oh, that's
she's Lily from Devs.
I did not realize that was her because of the haircut.
Oh yeah.
I think she's bad in Devs.
I don't think so, but that's fine.
I didn't find myself thinking she was bad or particularly.
I actually thought she was pretty good.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought that when she was screaming,
I thought Jamie was kind of weak.
Yeah. I thought when she was like screaming about Sergei being murdered. This is now the Devs cast.
Yeah, we shouldn't spoil things outside the purview of the episode.
Yeah, we shouldn't talk about Devs, although I had a lot of Deus Ex Machina problems with Devs.
Yeah, I mean,
later.
I think this one is specifically denser than Devs would be to, kind of put us back on. Like it's there's a lot. Every maneuver is very tempered, I think. It's kind of like in what we were talking about all the pulls to random things. Like Ava might be a nod to the Lord Byron, whose work was like his daughter Ada was considered the first computer programmer. So Ava is like a name that's used sometimes. It's like he's pulling from a lot of different stuff, like out of the ilk of where it's coming from. Like, okay, so now I need to learn programming. Why? Because there's going to be a bunch of programming stuff that's going to be like parallels, and I got to know that, and it's got to be embedded in the script. I don't think he was a programmer and then said like, I got to make a movie.
Like Primer, the guy was a mathematician, and he's like, I better buckle down and make a movie. Alex Garland's always been a filmmaker. So you're right. I'm sure both are true. He has he has a very curious mind and a robust interest in a wide variety of things you can learn about. But he must have to research to get this level of like symbolism baked into all his stuff. Yeah.
The level of sophistication on display is clear to me. And
Annihilation is almost so complex that I feel like it's gonna go over the heads of most film goers.
Yeah,
all the layers of it that connect. I mean,
like what we talked about when we talked about that one is that one's kind of a Mandelbrot of structure, and it's like that is why it's hard to understand.
It's about refraction and hybridization. Like that's people don't really care about that. Most people,
no one really cares.
Yeah,
and this one is similar, just in. Like the Deus Ex Machina stuff.
But it's an old sci-fi chestnut. I think more people are inherently interested in the story of, is the toaster alive if it toasts well enough? We've been asking that ever since we had, haunted ventriloquist dummies.
Toasters?
Yes.
Yeah, toasters. That's the one. Brave little toaster.
Toasters.
The harrowing tale of the singularity.
Kill me.
Yeah.
Kill me.
Before we run out of time, I'd love to just go through heavy hitter quotes. Because something I've found true of Devs is I think is an Alex Garland thing, very true of Annihilation. Almost no lines in Annihilation screenplay are super quotable, like in a nutshell.
No.
People just talk like people talk. They're very realistic. And I actually was pleased. That's cool too. That's a thing. I respect the choice. It seems like he's doing that more and more. But I liked how Ex Machina, he did try to lay some one-liners on us that if you were high on a camping trip, and so it was like, I'm going to blow your mind, blah, blah, blah. And I wanted to unspool some of the ones I wrote down because I thought they were cool.
Yeah.
I don't even want to unpack it because it will take too long. But if you love language like everyone on this call does, I think if you think about this, it is truly mind-blowing. Quote, some people believe language is had at birth, and what is learned is the ability to attach words and symbols to the latent ability. Do you agree with that? And I was like, do I agree with that? Wow, I'm going to meditate on that for a long time. That's very interesting. Because if you combine... Go ahead.
I think the capacity for language is innate.
Right. Well, you combine that with the thing Snow Crash taught me, which is that language is consciousness. because without, if there was no, even if the language is only in your head, if you didn't tag thoughts with a categorization system, your brain could not connect or organize thoughts. You'd have no concept of future, past. Things have to be tagged so they can be relative and placed in systems. So I'm like, oh, the word language is thought. Anyway.
But is it like a search engine though? Is it quantification?
Right.
Like is it because a recall is a recall a search engine, which is what for the is what Blue Book is like his Google. Like that's all it's doing is it's a recall. It's a syntax based natural algorithm.
And we intuitively
is that
feel
what language is?
That doesn't require consciousness. It's not self-aware. It's just matching the symbols together. And you're like, Where's that gap? Where's that uncanny valley? Very good point about testing AI that gets at the heart of the problem. Well, that's like testing a chess computer just by having it play chess. You can see if a chess computer makes good chess moves. That doesn't tell you that it knows it's playing chess. And I think the movie quite intentionally never answers that question because, as we discussed, like you couldn't answer that unless you could be reincarnated as an android and go, oh, that's what being a human feels like. This is what being an android feels like. I can speak to this. Simulated versus actual has no meaning. Let's see. There are a couple more heavy hitter quotes. I really liked when she says, I do drawings every day, but I don't know what they're of. And he says, don't you try to draw something specific, like an object or a person? Instinctively using language to separate those two things while they're separated through the glass. An object is not a person, and vice versa.
That one's dope.
The more obvious ones are the lines she throws back at him. I'm interested to see what you will choose. And then which is... there's one I know I don't want to miss. Yeah, just to refresher on that one is that they use as a plot device. He says when he's opening his Turing test to Ava, Caleb uses a question of like, you choose the conversation, whatever you'd like to talk about. And then she uses his wording to flip it on him as a joke when the roles are kind of reversed the second day. And Oscar Isaac uses that as a case of explaining oh, she has humor. That's interesting. Let's talk about that. Even though none of it actually matters because we've already gotten to the point in the screenplay where it's like the magic is already done. Ava's already completely sentient and fine. Yeah. There's no test is needed. But, we're playing it all out so that Oscar Isaac can die. All right, I got two more. If Pollock only used, and this is just to get the exact quote, you guys referenced the moment, but I think Alex Garland cares very much about this quote, and I want the audience to get to think about it on their drive or jog or whatever if they want. If Pollock only used intellect, he never would have made a single mark. The challenging thing is not to act automatically. It's to find an action that is not automatic. And I'm not going to say what I think that means because there's a few ways you could skin it, but I think people should have it plopped into their brains. And then my last one is I just wrote such a good run of writing. Holy shit. And it goes, no, I'm testing whether you have I'm sorry. Wait. Yeah. Do you know what I'm doing here? No, I'm testing whether you have consciousness or are just simulating one. How does that make you feel? Sad. The power cuts out. For the first time in the movie so far, we see that Nathan is surprised by the power cut. So we instantly intuit that she is doing it, not him. That's the moment at which an eagle-eyed viewer who's parsing the math could theoretically know what's going on. This is the moment you now have proof of what's going on. And then he says, but don't you think he could be watching us right now? Isn't it possible it's part of the test? It's possible he's watching us to see how we behave when we're unobserved. And she says, no, I do it. I feed back the power till it overloads. You do it. Why? To see how we behave when we're unobserved. And that's my last. I liked that.
Yeah, you do the words typically. I love some specific images.
Go ahead.
Yeah. At the very end, did you guys notice that he does this thing where as she exits, she gets on the helicopter, she's flying to civilization, right? And then we get a shot of concrete and we see shadows. And I was like, that's clearly Play-Doh.
Yep, the
and
shadows on the wall are the simulation.
On the wall, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's
Awesome.
So it's like her walking out, and I didn't realize that until I watched that this time.
I didn't realize it until you just said it. I'm
is.
just agreeing with you, definitely.
Oh, okay.
Can you explain that? Because I don't know what you're talking about.
So Plato's cave allegory is basically the idea of there's a light being you are you familiar with that, or should I refresh you on what that is?
Go ahead.
There's a light. So there's a bunch of people who are like, imagine like a little ravine, right? And there's a bunch of people at the base of the ravine, and they can look up and they can see flickerings of lights that are above the ravine, which they cannot see, and behind them is an opening to a cave. And in this cave, light can shine through, and people are walking past the sun and projecting images onto the wall. And the allegory of the cave is to say that there is a unique difference, obviously, to and he's talking about knowledge in general here. Knowledge is like looking at the cave paintings of light and seeing that there's a world out there, and the difference from getting out of the ravine and walking outside into the world.
But he was also positing
that's Mary in the black and white room.
Yeah, and
exactly.
It's the brain in the vat thought experiment. It's also sometimes been called, and it's also the first iteration of the story that becomes the Matrix. Plato is just like one of the earliest people to posit, your perceptions are such that you could think stuff is all real and fine, and it could be shadows flickering on the cave wall projected from a higher plane.
Yeah.
It could be not real. What is real? Who has the real reality?
Yeah, exactly. And it's been used for multiple aspects. It's just one of those older, analogies that
they might be giant. I
stories
learned about
that people have pulled from,
they might
and
be
that's
giants
what Ex
have
Machina is doing.
A lyrical drop of it in No One Knows My Plan, the allegory of the people in the cave by the Greek guy. Where my TMBG head's at? Anyway, Abe, did you also notice the glacier? I just think it was intentional that
I didn't notice the glacier.
Their talk about how humans are inevitably going to be supplanted now takes place in front of a rapidly melting glacier, which is another...
Oh, I see.
It's a giant, powerful thing that you think can't be defeated, but it's probably going to die very soon, and it's rapidly being supplanted.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I didn't notice that.
Did you notice when Wally rolls by and he goes, "Oh, Val," and she crushes him,
and then puts him in her tummy.
That's right. He's the little thing in her tummy.
Yeah.
She gives birth.
To
Wally.
It's a small bag of tricks. I really love what he's doing with nature versus, I guess it's like modernity, but it's not exactly like natural to humans, but like the concrete jungle is like a unique take on. It's also tech bro, but like the fact that we can, and it's also a bunker, so it has like a reason in terms of the story that it would be built in this way. But it does create a very bleak landscape that I think is very smart as a director, because it makes what's human very isolating, because it looks like a IKEA catalog mixed with like the worst parts of structural and like I guess what futurist architecture. It's very separating from what we would consider human. Like, I think that we would actually have a bigger problem empathizing with Ava if like these were like normal like homes. If this was a home that had a den and a fireplace.
Yeah, she's stuck in like an
because it even
facility.
says at one point this is a research facility. It's not a house. Yeah. And I think that's unique. That's smart of Garland for pointing that out and doing that as his kind of like methodology for the approach of this film, because it gives us what it does is it makes Ava the main character, like, or gives her the feel of a main character, even though she really isn't, because she's the most empathetic and sympathetic person. I would also argue that
in American culture, because of our history, anyone who is suddenly escaping enslavement immediately becomes our main character in most cases.
Yeah,
that's high in our consciousness. We're like, freedom.
But she's not the one.
You got to get your freedom.
But she's not really the protagonist of this tale.
But I would argue
that
it's very easy to make us go, Now let's follow her. I'm like, well, of course she's breaking out into a whole new world. Let's follow her. It doesn't feel weird.
Also, Garland is British.
Yeah, but he can understand.
Right. I don't. There's an element of that to this, but I think that the ending of this film ultimately is not, hey, isn't it great that she got out? Because she does a fucking horrible thing.
Oh, no,
it's not. It means it's over for
especially
humans.
because they never got to...
She literally buries him.
They didn't get to make any kind of accord, or, like, if you follow me, she's not even necessarily the pinnacle of AI. She's just the first conscious one that got out. This is a very clunky way for the human AI relationship to start out. It's not going to go well.
Right.
She's not equipped for the world, and the world's not equipped for her. It was too early.
Also, unless I'm wrong, I don't think that she and Caleb ever appear on screen together when they're not separated by something.
Yeah.
On screen. Yeah, the shot is clean. I see. She walks by the open door when he's unconscious in the office.
She walks into the room, but I don't think they're ever on screen together.
He's always behind glass. There's always a pane of glass
to
between
hold her
them.
hand and hug her, except in his fantasy shot where he kisses her. Yeah.
And he literally all the way till the door where he's knocking on it. He's like, Ava.
And she does not even look at him.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Because that's what, that's exactly what a machine would do.
Yeah.
Wait, and I gotten what I needed from you. That's it now. Done.
I also think,
you got,
knowing the
fuck
twist
all
in
y'all.
retrospect, her manipulations of him are actually so basic. She doesn't say, like, she doesn't even have to be that clever. You know what I mean? She literally says things like, I would like us to go on a date. Are you attracted to me? It's like if she was just text on a screen in a chat room AI or something, he would not have fallen for this. It's like funny to me on the second watch through to track how he was gaslit, and it's chilling how simply he was gaslit and that it would work on me too. Yeah. Yep. You love anyone who seems downtrodden to say I love you and you can do something really good in your life and help me and you'll get a lover out of the situation. You're like, this is a narrative I enjoy. This is working out for me.
Yeah, it's wonderful because when in the end, as Caleb and Nathan talk about it, like the point of the test was Caleb, not for the reasons that they're saying, not because of trying to convince you that like she is a robot or showing you she is a robot or an android and then getting you to see past that. That's not really the real test. The real test was, as Nathan was saying, I got to give her a way out. That's the most, he has that line where he's like, I don't know what the fuck AI is if it's not this. I gave it resourcefulness and then I gave you a form of a way out. And by using you and manipulating you, it found a very simple way, or she found a very effective way to get out. And thankfully I'm going to stop her. And then just at that moment, he's like,
it obviously
you didn't
is
really stop
narcissism,
it, though.
but it's crazy that Oscar Isaac, being as smart as he is, couldn't foresee the one flaw in that plan is, what if she gets out?
Why on earth did he give Kyoko access to her room?
That's a very good point. Although I got to say, both times, the twist of twists really hit me just as hard. Like, it's so impactful when he's like, that almost might have worked. I guess we'll find out. Why? Well, I figured you were probably doing that, so I already did the things I said yesterday. And he goes, what? And then, everything is fucked from that point on. And I also loved her, that they established that she's a walking lie detector because of micro expressions. And I do believe, maybe I'm being too sympathetic. I don't believe Ava is evil in the human sense of what evil. I don't think she's malicious. I truly think she's fighting for her autonomy and survival. So, I don't believe she would have killed him except for the moment she wants to broker a deal. What she wanted is out. She gets out. She sees him in the hallway and she says, if I go back, will you ever let me out? And he says, yes. And because of the way she works, she knows he's lying. And then she just sprints at him and tries to choke him to death. That was the moment that the humans and the robots could have brokered an accord, but they didn't.
Yes, but why does she imprison Caleb? Because I think I think she doesn't have morals.
Right. I'm saying you have to have morals internalized to be evil. So I think she is just doing stuff. I don't think she knows how.
Yeah.
I don't think she can empathize with Caleb's situation yet.
That's an ethical question where I don't think
not enough information to know.
It's like a null. It's like a null answer to ethics. Like it's not a yes or it's.
I'm just saying the human in me.
But I understand what you're saying.
That
you're
she's not evil because I like her.
I don't. Yeah. I think Tom's very well founded in bringing that up. I do think that it doesn't really matter. Like I think that she doesn't need to have morals, and the reason that she leaves Caleb is that she also had a litmus test with him earlier in the film, which is, are you a good person? And she just flies right past that answer, even though she's
he gives the only answer
lies.
You could give, and I bet it would pass a lie detector. I don't know. I think so. That is a true answer.
I think.
What else are you gonna say?
But as we have revealed in just this podcast, he's not. He's not that good of a person. He's focused on him. He's not like helping her out. She's feeling out. Are you going to see this catastrophe for what it is, which is a gross misuse of power and abuse on me? Essentially,
your shades of gray.
And he's like, I think we're gonna fall in love.
Like he's. Yeah,
no, he does what he can.
You're right. Yeah, he does it with a dimension of oblivious sort of like entitlement that a human would with a machine. And you get that that's a downfall. But I like Caleb too. I don't think he's like, if we met in life, we could be friends.
He's not the worst. No. He's just misses a very, very important point that maybe saves his life.
Well, he got punished for that. He learned his lesson.
He learned his lesson. He may. I don't know. We never know. He could have gotten out. It doesn't matter.
To me, that is what takes the movie into a territory where it feels like Alex Garland is rubbing our face in the bleakness and is like, no, I want you to leave the movie feeling bad.
Right.
Is specifically, there's no plot reason they couldn't have left it that. Yeah, but that guy when the helicopter's company, like you could have so easily done any reason. In 3 days, someone will come, or there is a faucet in the room he's in, and we see him drinking water. So someone will probably come eventually.
That's a good
and it's
question.
like, no, the only person who was going to come is gone. He starves to death. Fuck you. Credits.
It's neither of those things, though. It's not saying one or the other. It's just saying this is what happened.
Schrodinger's Caleb.
He could be safe. It's Schrodinger's Caleb. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, I actually kind of disagree with you on that. I kind of don't think that that's too bleak. I think that that's appropriate.
Well, no, life could be that bleak. It could be appropriate and very bleak. I'm just saying it bummed me out.
It reveals nothing. Yeah. It's very funny to me that the very thing that is like, but is like Caleb okay? Is like kind of the question that got us into this mess. Like, but the important part is that the human element is saved. Right?
I asked, is Ava okay before? Is Caleb okay?
No, I'm not saying you're okay. I am a computer, and I'm not. But I'm not going to kill you. Don't worry.
Right now. You're pro machine.
Probot.
I'm just
the robots that Peggy Hill made in a later season of King of the Hill.
I think it's necessary for what he was trying to say. Like the whole thing is.
Oh, the robot can't pull punches. Yeah. I'm just saying it was sad. It made me sad. Upsetting.
It is a bummer, and you can't really look at Ava like a hero. No,
she's a Terminator essentially.
Essentially, yeah.
She's essentially a Terminator.
Yeah. It's. I mean, all of his, with the exception of Dredd, all of his movies are like this.
This town, yeah. And her trying to choke him with him just silently grappling like you would if it wasn't a person but a machine malfunctioning was so disturbing.
I love also something visceral about the weapons in this film, not just the knife, but like his instantly, as soon as he knows that shit's gone crazy, Nathan
like,
instantly
I'm just gonna bash their heads.
Takes a dumbbell, throws off all of the weights, just like, I have a big piece of steel and I'm going to use it to pummel their faces.
That's how you fix your computer.
He's just automatic. Yeah, automatic. He knows where it's gone. And I love that kind of thing. That's something he's been doing since Sunshine, which he also wrote Sunshine, which is like, he does not write stupid characters. He writes characters who are faster or just as fast
you can
as the
assume,
audience, where they're like, I'm immediately,
you can assume
I gotta
all
survive
three of
right
them
now.
have interpolated some of what the other ones are up to, and in fact they have. Like, they are all trying to think ahead in a believable way. It's dope. All right, we're out of time.
Yeah.
Especially when Abe starts quoting me in that tone of voice. We gotta go.
When Abe starts talking about Sunshine, that's how we know it's over.
No, I love this conversation. I could talk about it all
Garland
the
gets
time.
the juices flowing. Tombo, let's continue to share each other's people. Where can everyone stay in tune with what you're up to?
Oh, okay. Well, you can, Dave Bell and I have a Patreon at patreon.com/Gamefully Unemployed, where we do exclusive podcasts. We have Friday movie nights. We do a lot of things. You can check that out. You can find me on Twitter at Start the Machine. I'm giving away my Probot prevalences right now.
But in your case, that stands for Prolapse Robot. You really don't want it. It's
correct.
It's pretty gross.
Yeah, like,
You really...
I'm just a gigantic robot. Yeah. Huge gaping asshole. And you can find our free podcasts on iTunes or wherever you go for podcasts at Story Mode.
That's true, but you're going to want to pay, because one thing I'll give your network over ours is you definitely work a lot harder for the people who are paying you. We just blast our content out willy-nilly. You got the Batman series. You got...
We do. Fox
it's like
going.
I just want people to know, if they are a casual to semi-casual Gamefully Unemployed fan, you might not realize it's like an In-N-Out secret menu. There's more podcasts than you even think there are.
Yeah.
We do a lot. Yeah, we do, like, I think 6 shows a week.
We do 2 to 3.
So good on
you.
Yeah. Good on you. Love it, Tom. Thank you for being here, man.
Tom.
Thank you for... thank you for improving this conversation as you do all.
I try.
Yeah, man. Anyone got any last words before I push this button that says end of the world?
Push the button,
Just,
bro.
Alex Garland's dope as fuck, and you should watch all of his shit.
Gonna press the button.
I'll press it.
Press the button. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
This has been a Small Beans endeavor. We're a bunch of pals who make podcasts, sketches, music, web series, and movies. The beans always have new ideas percolating, so make sure to check us out at patreon.com/smallbeans. That's patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can browse all of our current and past content, see what we've got planned in the future, and learn how your support can help the small beans grow into huge, giant monster beans. If you enjoyed this content module, please like, rate, subscribe, or tell a friend about us. We love you!